So when you were given the scholarship for the school outside, where was that? How far was that from Kakuma?
Yeah, that was, I can't remember how far it is, but I know that it's a day trip
Mm.
in a car.
Okay.
Hmm.
So
So
yeah.
that was like past Lodwar. That was still in Turkana district at a
Mhm.
place called Katilu. And
Okay.
that was Sister Maureen. That was a Catholic lady that had a scholarship. And that scholarship actually was given only to people that passed the KCPE, the primary
Mm.
school examination.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even sit for KCPE, so it was a God thing where some of my friends that have saw me, I went and did a typewriter
Mm-hmm.
typing class, and
Mm-hmm.
they saw me there, and that was about the time that I was about arranged marriage.
Mm.
And so they go and talk to Sister Maureen, and then Sister Maureen asked for my grades, and she was impressed with my grade. And she's like, okay, we'll give her a scholarship. So me and few other girls were allowed to go attend primary school, because that scholarship was normally for people that pass and have a high mark. So that's again another miracle that happened.
Yes.
And I just remember that first term that I was in Kenyan school, it was the birth focus of my life, and I become the third person. You know how they say number one, number two,
Mm.
number three in a Kenyan school, where
Mm.
I did know Swahili, and because I had focus, in a refugee camp, you are normally going to classes. The teachers don't show up sometimes they do, and then
Mm.
you get out of classroom and you go and grind maize or sorghum, and then you have to go look for firewood, and then you go go to the borehole and collect water.
Mm.
So most of the time, as a girl, you don't really have time for study.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So
Well, you did a lot to show how important education is, and how much girls need education as well as boys. And so you said it was a God thing that you got there, and then tell people about the God thing that got you on the list to go to the United States.
hmm. So it was built up on that case. Again, one of my school teachers were like, you only 15, you cannot get married. Where is the guy that came and did the engagement party with my family? And I say that he went back to Sudan to look for dowry, because
Mm-hmm.
in my culture, you just don't take a girl, you have to pay for dowry. So in a twisted way, dowry actually saved me from being married.
Yeah.
Uh, because they asked him to go look for the dowry, and then that's when the process start for the lost boys. And my teacher was like, you know what, I believe in you, you are bright, you love school, and you are young to begin with to get married, so why don't you apply
Mm-hmm.
for for this program, the lost boys of Sudan? And I say, okay, I will apply. So I apply, and then when I showed them the Russian card that I had, my aunt had sold my Russian card before to travel to Sudan, because there were a lot of attack in a refugee camp.
Mm-hmm.
And so was Rebecca Ren instead of Deng.
Mm-hmm.
And then so they saw that, and they say, okay, bring your transcript from school. And then they saw that, then they see that, yeah, I actually arrived in 1992 going to 93, so I've been in Kakuma refugee camp, everything showed the record, except my card just gets old. And they know that practice, I think, that people will sell card because there's no money
Mm-hmm.
to go to get out if things are hard. So at that time, where they say, okay, we will work on this issue, we will make sure that you can go, because everything show your teachers came and told us you've been here. And yeah, then I get accepted. And I remember looking at the name on the board, Rebecca Rang, and I was so excited that I'll be coming to United States. So that was a godly thing too, that
Yes.
they asked my teachers and they saw my transcript, or school performance, that I've been there all along. Otherwise, some people really miss the opportunity for just little mistake like that, like a mistake on a name, even if it is your card or your card got stolen, you know.
Yeah, and you mentioned that if they had put up your name, Rebecca Deng, that if your family had seen it, they may have stopped you from being able to go because they wanted you to get married. So having the name Rebecca Rang, they didn't notice that and say, you know, oh, that's Rebecca. So that was truly an act of God. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a possibility. However, when I told my uncle later on that I'm going to United States, he was very kind and
mhm,
understanding. And sometimes I wonder, you know, I feel like all of these forced marriage and arranged marriages and giving young girls up or recruiting young boys to military and things like that, it
mhm,
goes down to poverty, you know.
mhm, mhm.
So to
Yeah.
my uncle, if there's a man that is supposed to be marrying me and providing for me, maybe in their mind is a better thing than just running around. But
Mhm,
when he know that there's opportunity for me to go to school to just better off my life, he was very
mhm,
understanding.
mhm,
And that's why sometimes I'm just cautious when people say, you know, this post marriage is a Sudanese culture or whatever.
mhm,
Because when I listen to the older generation, they talk about like before in the villages, you cannot marry a girl until they are at least 20 years old. You know, this
mhm.
marrying children young was
Very
never
good.
part of the culture. So sometimes there have to be a differentiation,
Mhm,
differentiating between the culture, the actual culture, Dinka culture or Sudanese culture,
mhm,
and what I call the culture of war
mm.
or a traumatized culture,
Yes,
like
yes.
beating women, for example. It's not a Sudanese culture. In a
Mm,
village before the war came, they talk
mhm,
about if a man is, or like if the family beat women or mistreat them,
mhm,
if they come during the time to come and ask a hand of a girl from a different family, they will say, no, we don't want to be related to you. You are a family that mistreat women. So
mm,
mistreating women, recruiting young children to be soldiers, or it's not a Sudanese culture. It's a
mhm,
culture of war, and
mm.
people need to differentiate that. And I
Yeah,
think,
that's a very good point. I really appreciate that term, the culture of war, and how different it is from the true culture. And you know, I remember reading that your uncle, you know, was happy for you going to the United States too. So that shows that yeah, that these other things are the result of trauma and of war and of the evil that gets done. So as we finish up, will you tell people a little bit about your own experience in learning about trauma and about healing of trauma, what you know you ended up doing in college, studying, and with your life since then, and about how the forgiveness, the power of forgiveness works into that. I just want to read people that one quote I told you I thought was so wonderful. Rebecca wrote in her book after having tension with the other, uh, the girl who was from Nuer culture. That is what evil does. It keeps us hostage and covers our eyes to a renewal of life, and maybe give um, uh, people from South Sudan encouragement along that road to see that they need to uncover their eyes to the possibilities of peace and hope for the future instead of allowing the evil to keep their eyes covered and the anger and lack of forgiveness.
yeah. So, Teresa, she is my dear sister, and you will have not known that we are from a different tribe or even different mother, you know, the way we care for each other. But when we arrived in the US, she was born and where I was born, a Dinka. We have our histories that we collect from our upbringing and things that we have experienced. And so when I say that code, that's what evil does. Evil hold you hostage to the pain of the past,
Mm,
the hurting that have been done to you,
Mhm.
And when Teresa and I look at each other and get to know each other, we knew that, what we have is more beautiful than our past. Even
Mhm.
as a children from the same mother or same tribe, you fight, you have your movement where you don't get along, but
Mhm.
that should not hold you hostage as family. And that's what I see South Sudanese, the 65 tribe, or even Sudan. We are one people, and the only way to move forward really is to forgive each other, and honestly forgiving each other. And forgiving is not just by mouth, right?
Mhm.
Forgiving, I mean, when you say I forgive and I want peace, is that you will not participate in anything that will bring disaster like war. You will always focus on thing of peace. And then another way of really moving forward is for a person that have done wrong in the past to say sorry.
Mhm.
Sorry, to
Mhm.
forgive themselves first, and to forgive the community, to ask for community forgiveness. It
Mhm.
is important that people are held accountable, you know,
Yes.
and that people can say, I'm so sorry for a mistake I have made. But most importantly, if you are sorry about what you have done and that you forgive yourself, therefore you be free to never repeat that mistake again.
Mhm.
So the peace that I want for South Sudanese moving forward is really working on our own forgiveness to ourselves, because one way or another we participate in the suffering, right? Number two is to say that I'm going to hold myself accountable by saying sorry to the people that I have harmed,
Mhm.
and that I'm going to hold myself accountable by saying that never will this happen again.
Mhm.
Because all the war that was happening between the North government, the Khartoum government, and the South, a lot of people died. 1991, a lot of people died. 2013, a lot of people died.
Mhm.
Most of these people are innocent people, people that don't even know politics, or they just even hear the name of big people in a government,
Mhm.
And these people, they deserve our accountability of saying no to war and yes to peace, and no to me being manipulative, you know,
Mhm.
in saying, telling people, oh, I have changed, but then you bring people back to war.
Mhm.
That is keeping people hostage. What
Mhm.
happened to my generation? For me, for example, when I ran as a 6 years old, growing up in a refugee camp, I will never wish that kind of lifestyle in a million years to another South Sudanese or any humanity, any human being in the world. So that will be my thing. What happened, happened.
Mhm.
How do we move on from now? First of all, it's acknowledging that we have harmed each other and we have hurt each other, but what we have is more beautiful. We can heal uh, together, and we can make sure the next generation is free from this, from this trauma and hatred. They can choose for themselves, and that's what I want to see South Sudan is doing,
Yes.
focusing on peace and forgiveness, and not a fake peace and not a fake forgiveness either.
Mhm.
Because it is easy for people to be, oh, if this person didn't forgive me, therefore I will not forgive them. I talk a lot about that in my book. I wrote my book and I say I honestly forgive people that have meant evil toward me.
Mhm.
And maybe I will never hear from any of them
Mhm.
that they are sorry for what they done. So forgiveness actually is not what you do for the other person, it's what you do for yourself. So for me to say that I have forgive
Mhm.
is me freeing myself. Because
That's
really,
right.
most people that harm people, or people that just enjoy hurting others people, you will be surprised. They probably are not thinking about you, and they're not thinking about what they have done, but
Mhm.
they have got you twice. They have hurt you, and they also making you think about them every day in your
Mhm.
life, about the bad thing they done to you. So actually, you are the one that is not free. So that's
Right.
why forgiveness is important. It's important. It's not for the other person, but for your own self to be free.
Mhm.
And when my sister and I knew that, if I was born into a Nuer family and she was born into a Dinka family, or, like children don't know, you're just born into the family. Nobody chooses who your parents are, and you can hold people hostage because of where they come from, and keeping them into this, narrative of war or something like that. Or, somebody that is born from Sudan, the north and the south. Nobody choose their family, but
Mm-hmm.
we can choose to coexist. We can choose to say, well, I see it this way. You and I, my friend Faith, we don't agree on most things, but we are sisters in Christ and our faith, and we are sisters that I hope we have education and wisdom enough where be like, oh, Faith, I don't agree with you on that topic, but I see your point. And Rebecca, I don't agree with you. I will not do it that way, but I see your point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what need to be dialogue. I'm not saying that everybody will be the same tribe. No, identity is so important,
Mm-hmm.
and what makes South Sudan actually beautiful is our own unique, diverse background of traditions.
Yes.
For example, one of my favorite things that I love is like Nuer dancing and singing. I
Mm.
call them people of music. I love their music. And I listen to Dinka music, I love it too, but there's just something about the music that I love in that culture.
Mm.
And there's a reason why it's there. And I'm pretty sure somebody can say something about Dinka, or the Murle, or the Bari, like different tribes, right? We all are beautiful in our unique way. I'm not saying throw away your culture, but I'm saying that throw away things that don't serve us,
Mm-hmm.
things that are hatred, that are passed down, and they might not even be, they might be true to the people that happen to them, but they are not true for young generation. I
That's right.
remember growing up in Kakuma refugee camp too, uh, where we have people from all over the place. I had people from Burundi and Rwanda that are my friends.
Mm.
There's no way I would be friends with those people if I was still in Sudan, but the new environment opened that wall. And so that will be my message to South Sudanese, to really embrace the importance of peace.
Mm. Amen.
Peace that start with your own self, and that you can, because one of the things I tell people is that you cannot give what you don't have.
Mm.
You cannot give what you don't have. If you just say, I want peace for the community and for the country, and you as a leader or you as a person talking don't have that peace, then it's nothing. It have to begin with our own self. And then that's why I focus less on blaming, and just say, okay, you hurt me, and there are facts
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
about what happened, but okay, what do we do from now on? How do we move on? And that
That's
is what is important.
that is very important. And I think too, what you say, there are facts. You can't ignore facts. You can't deny things that happen, because if you deny things happen, then that's not really forgiveness anyway. That's just
Mm-hmm.
denial. But the power of forgiveness is when somebody looks at something and says, this is what happened. This was evil, but I forgive anyway. And like you say, it frees yourself, but it can free the person who did the evil, if they will accept that and acknowledge what they did. So yeah, that's my prayer for South Sudan as well, that there would be peace, and that there would be forgiveness and reconciliation, and that people would not only extend forgiveness, but people would ask for forgiveness as well, by acknowledging, having contrition in their heart for the things that they have done. So thank you so much, Rebecca. And I
You're
urge
welcome. Yeah,
everyone.
sometime I have a hope and dream that, when Sudan become independent, I was like, I wish they had a huge ceremony, like a cleansing ceremony, like
Yes.
ancient time, where people just, cleanse themselves,
Hmm.
as a way to say, I have forgiven myself, you forgive me, and yeah. But
Hmm.
yeah, thank you so much.
Well, maybe that will still come. I think one of my prayers for South Sudan has been that the next East African revival, like the one that started in, what was it, the 40s in Uganda and Rwanda, will start in South Sudan.